Hello and welcome to Books and Beyond. I'm your host, Jimmy Bennet, and Books and Beyond is the show where we hope to help people personify their aspirations. Before we get to my guest, I'm going to put in a couple of words. First, for the Southeastern Connecticut Authors and Publishers Association. It's a writers group that we meet once every third Monday of the month at the Groton Public Library at 6:30. Anybody who's interested in writing, editing, agents, illustrators, we ask you to join. Come on down, check us out. It's a great networking and it's a great group of people. And I'd also like to put a little plug in for Toastmasters at the Mystic Aquarium. That meets every the second Wednesday and the fourth Wednesday of every month at the Mill Center at the Mystic Aquarium. And Toastmasters is where you can learn to speak in public, organize your thoughts, and it's a great way for anybody to learn to speak better. And last shameless plug is going to be for my two new books out. I started a new series called William Gillette and Mystic. My first book is called A Case of Mayan Mystery and Mystic, and that's set in Mystic, Connecticut in 1932. And then my second book is The Case of Two Birds, which is set in Noank, Connecticut in 1922. And both the books have a lot of historical people, facts, locations, and I tried to show the rich history of our community in a little cozy mystery featuring William Gillette, my character. So, but let's get all past that right now. I want to get to a very special lady, Amanda Russel. Mm-hmm. Thank you for joining us today. Amanda is a children's author and illustrator.
Yes.
And she's got a very powerful message. So, Amanda, could you tell us a little about yourself and how you got started and what you do?
Sure. I am an autism mom. My son has severe autism. And so I wrote this story to help children understand special needs, understand their friends that have special needs, and be able to more easily connect with them. When we would go to playgrounds and libraries, we would see kids, my son is not quiet, he's very loud and he's very flappy. And so that was, very obvious to children when they would see him. And, they're curious about it, so they would watch us, but they wouldn't know how to come up and engage with him.
Right.
So that's why I wrote these books, to help children understand and be able to engage with their friends that have special needs and make those connections. So,
Good. Yeah. Hey, good. I think it's important to, I think, adults too, right?
Yes. I found a lot of grandparents tell me that they've learned a lot from these books just by reading them to their grandchildren.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, I don't know, as an adult, how do you, when you see somebody with special needs, how do you explain it to your children? How do you get them to approach, instead of sort of, pulling them away, saying, okay,
And we were never taught that, really.
No.
Like, I remember when I was in school, there were children in our school that had special needs. No one spoke to us about it. No one gave us ideas or pointers of how to play with them and how to engage with them. So that's my whole purpose.
Yeah, it was kind of, I was thinking the same thing earlier. I hate to say it, but the truth was most of those kids were isolated in their own special classes.
Yes.
They had their own spots on the playground. Mm-hmm. They were kept away from kids, and kids can be cruel, and but I wonder sometimes had they tried to, it's like the deaf school. My mother used to be the nurse at Mystic World School for the Deaf Children, and then eventually they realized keeping them separate from the population wasn't really helping or advancing them.
Yeah.
So they started the mainstreaming program and brought them into the thing. And this is the kind of thing though that I think people really need to learn.
Yeah. And it's pretty simple. In the first book, Jacob Learns to Fly, we introduce a concept that we use with our son called the art of joining. And we join him in his world instead of forcing him into our world. And we use things that he's interested in to teach him how to do things. So in the first book, you can see on the cover, he's just laying by the water and he just, wants to watch the water. My son does the same thing. We'll go on hikes and he'll find a rock and he'll just lay by the water and just watch it flow by. He'll float little leaf boats down and he's just fascinated by the sparkle and how the water flows. So in the book, the sister owl jumps in the water because she realizes he needs to learn how to fly. And so she jumps in the water and starts splashing. He thinks it's fantastic and he gets in the water and does the same thing. So gradually she adds, once he masters a step like the flapping of the wings, then she'll add another step, which is like jumping up and down and making bigger splashes. And he just thinks that's fantastic. And before he knows it, he's flying.
Nice.
And that's what we do with our son. We just take baby steps and teach him things in that way.
Now, how did you learn to deal with it?
To deal with autism?
Right.
Or we had very good therapists. Our son was in birth to 3. We started in birth to 3. And the young women that came to our house were just so helpful. I sat in every therapy session with him so I could learn what they were doing so that I could carry it over.
Right.
And then we moved on to a therapy center, and the therapist that we started with, she was just amazing. And she just taught me so much, how to basically everything, how to engage with him, how to get his attention, how, we did everything, potty training and, feeding and everything. And then later she became our BCBA, which is like the manager of the therapists. And I just kept learning from her, and that's how we did it.
And then, so how did it turn into writing books?
I had a dream one night. I woke up at 3 a.m. and I was like, wow, that was a pretty good dream. Maybe I should write that down. And it was the story. And so then I got my phone out, wrote it in the notes, and I just kept thinking about it. And I firmly believe that everything happens for a reason. There was a reason that I had that dream. There's a reason I wrote it down, and I couldn't get it out of my head. And so I told my husband, I said, I think I want to write a book. I think this is a great children's book that, we can help children learn. And he said, great. You make the book and I'll sell it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. And so I had to learn how to paint because I had no idea, I had no artistic ability.
You're kidding me.
No. So I had to, I first started just by watching some YouTube videos. And then I would take my daughter to those paint nights.
Yep.
And we would paint together, and we filled up our house with paintings. Just,
Yep.
The Mommy and Me paintings, our entire downstairs, the walls were just covered with paint.
That's great.
Yeah. And so then I finally got comfortable with it, and I started painting, and I was doing it in acrylics, and I just could not get the water to move the way I wanted to with acrylics because it's a very sticky paint. And so my sister-in-law, who's an actual artist, she actually knows what she's doing. I would consult with her on a couple things here and there, and I got to the water and I asked her, how can I make this look, like water? And she said, I don't think you're going to be able to. She said, I think you're going to have to start over.
Yeah.
And do, use watercolor. And I said, I'm almost to the end of the book. I can't start over. And so she said, try one and see how it goes. And so I did, and she was right.
Yeah.
Of course she was right. So I had to redo the entire book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was crushing. It took about 4 years because COVID happened in the middle of it. So it took about 4 years to get it out. But I'm glad that, I finally got there. And then the second book only took me about 6 weeks to do because I had already done it. I knew
Yes, you know the process. And,
you
yeah,
know?
right.
So it was just a matter of just getting the pictures out. So yeah.
So now, I ask this with a lot of children's authors. Do you put words to pictures or pictures to words?
So I had this words first,
Okay.
and then I had to I just sketched out the pictures in my head. You know, I think it was easier for me because it came as a dream, so I kind of already had the whole vision of what it should look like on
Right.
paper.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're writing about a very powerful message, though. You're writing a very, a very serious subject, but you need to put it into children's language.
Mm-hmm.
And how's that? Is it?
It's, this, my kids give me the stories. Basically, I just write about our life. And the first one is about my son and my daughter. The second one is about my son and a friend that he had that he met in preschool. And she would not leave his side. And she would wait at the front door for him every morning, and she would not go into school until he would get there.
No.
And she just stuck by him the whole day. And she was so helpful. She helped him do everything because he has a lot of motor delays and everything. And he was nonverbal for a very long time. So she never left his side. So that's their story about how she always just included him.
Right. Right. And now the third book, you were talking to me earlier, it's about diet and...
Yeah, special diet. So we took a little different direction with this one. A really big part of our life is special diets because our son, like a lot of other people with autism, they're gluten-free and dairy-free. So the gluten and the dairy really kind of accentuate their issues that they have, and it, increases behaviors.
I never knew that. I didn't realize.
Yeah, the long chain proteins in the gluten and the dairy, they go up. They're not. They don't have the enzymes to break them down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So going to birthday parties or barbecues or anywhere that there's food is really difficult for us because at a kid's birthday party there's always pizza, ice cream,
right,
cake.
Right.
Like everything has gluten and dairy
Yeah.
in it. And so it's just a story about how you can include your friends that have special diets. And, it's again about a friend that he had in his class. And she, she shared his pretzels. That's really the beginning of it. She shared his gluten-free pretzels and she was like, wow, these are better than regular pretzels. Yeah, so it's just, a story about how she helped, accommodate. And when we go to her birthday party, she always makes sure that she has stuff that he can eat.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I like the fact that your books really teach inclusion.
Yeah, that's our whole mission, is to just teach inclusion and encourage people to, include everyone.
Right. Right. Well, that's good. Now, you do, aside from your writing and stuff like that, you were telling me you do a lot of events at schools.
Yes, so I go to schools and I do readings. I'll do whole school readings, I'll do individual class readings, and I read to the children. And then I answer all of their questions because they have amazing questions. They're so inquisitive, they want to know more, they want to know how, they'll bring up specific instances so I can help guide them in those instances. And they're so curious.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, they're so open. They're not scared to talk about it where, the adults are kind of, we don't want to talk about that. They'll ask anything.
Right, yeah.
And it's great. I love it because I can answer it.
Right, which is good. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like we were talking earlier, I think it's important that kids are aware of differences in people, just like everything else.
Yeah.
And and to be more accepting. But if you understand something, it's a lot easier to be accepting of it.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know.
Yeah.
So, so it's been. Well, I have to say, I mean, honestly, I was blessed, with two sons that really had no problems or gave me no problems, or but I really admire people. I have a lot of friends who have children with special needs, either physical or whatever, and I just wonder how they deal with it. I guess I'm asking you, how do you deal with it? Where do you find the strength and the perseverance to carry through?
We just love,
Right.
Love is the source of understanding, and you can do anything if you love. We just love our son and we want him to be happy.
Yeah.
And that's our mission, is to just create an environment where he is loved and happy.
Right.
Yeah.
And how does his brothers and sisters do with it?
He has one sister, and she's very understanding. So they're actually the same age.
Oh, I'm
just
sorry. I
not
thought you had
twins.
two boys. So you have
No.
one boy and one girl.
One boy and one girl.
Oh, see, Larry
Yeah.
got that wrong on me.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay.
So we had they're not quite a year apart, so we were able to put her in the same class that he was in, and I think exposing her to that, she was able to really see his struggles, because she struggled with it in the beginning. That was another reason why I wrote the book, is because she didn't understand, when she was 3 and 4 years old, why is he having friends come over to the house to play with him? Well, they weren't friends, they were therapists.
Oh, okay.
So she saw
Right.
all these people coming over to the house with bags of toys.
Yeah.
And she was like, why does he get this and why don't I?
Right.
So just having her immersed in the therapy and school with him, she was able to see what, his needs were and why he needed the extra attention. And just exposing her to that, she's so caring and so thoughtful. And she's actually working on a book of her own.
Oh, nice.
And, just about what it's like to be a sibling of autism.
Right.
And how it's so different
Right.
than, just having a regular sibling. And sometimes she tells me, she says, I'm glad that he has autism, because my friends that have brothers, they're so annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, she finds humor in it.
Right.
But she also sees the love in it.
Yes.
So that really helps her. And, she's just so caring. When she was a lot younger, she wanted to be a therapist because she saw,
Yeah.
what they did and everything. Now she wants to be a veterinarian.
Okay.
So, which is also just another
just
form
as
of love
good.
and
Yeah,
caring.
Right. That's great. I think that I guess a lot of times, people don't realize that really it's the whole family.
Yes. It takes the whole
It's not
family.
just an individual who has, a disability.
Yeah.
It's the whole family that has.
Yeah, it
has
really
to-
impacts us. Like, it really limits us on what we can do and where we can go and when we can go certain places. And, we always have to make sure we have a plan wherever we go. If we go to the grocery store, is it going to be busy? Is it going to be, is he going to need this or that? Or if we go to the beach, we have to make sure we go to a smaller beach and we go in the evening when there's less people, and when it's not so hot. He can't really take
Right.
the heat. We went to the beach the other day midday, and it was a few days ago when we had the heat wave, and there were so many people there, and he lasted about 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a little sensory overload.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything. But yeah, we really have to make sure that we have, headphones if we need them, or anything, all of his snacks, his comfort foods, a phone if he needs to, have some quiet time and watch a video. Or we really have to plan a lot. So it really is limiting for us as a family. And a lot
Right.
of people don't understand, we'll get invited to parties and sometimes we can't go.
Right.
because it's not going to be putting him in a good place where he
Right.
can be successful,
Yep.
you know.
Yep. Okay, so now is I hate to sound ignorant, but is he in public school?
He is in public school. The school that he's in has what they call a phase program. So it's like functional academic skills education. So it's kind of like a small special needs school within the public school.
Okay.
Yeah, so they teach him, we love the school so much, they teach him so many functional skills. They take field trips, like, I don't know, once every month or two they'll go on a field trip. They'll take him out in the community, they'll take him grocery shopping. They'll teach him, how to manage money at the grocery store. They'll take him to a restaurant and teach him how to order food. They'll take him to the library for Valentine's Day and they'll make a Valentine's Day card. Then they'll walk across the street to the post office to mail it to us.
Oh, okay.
So they're teaching them how to do everyday things.
Right.
And then they have like a small apartment in the school, so they teach them how to do laundry, how to cook, how to do, everything that
Wow,
they
that's
need
fantastic.
to do at home.
Actually,
Yeah.
it's probably about 3/4 of the population could use that.
Yeah,
But-
but they really work on, supporting his everyday living skills.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. I didn't realize that they had programs like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that back in my day.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
We were talking about that earlier. It was, I don't know, ignorance, I guess, but, most of the special needs kids were siphoned off to one class, the back of the school, had their own
Yeah.
spot on the playground.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of interaction, and as I said before, kids can be cruel. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he has the best teachers. They really focus on, teaching him the way that he learns.
Yeah.
They're not just sitting down and doing, worksheets.
Right.
They're teaching him with manipulatives and, tactile things where he can actually see it and understand
Right.
it,
What does he think of your books?
I don't know.
Yeah.
He's very limited verbally and expressing. He has very little expressive communication.
Right.
So he knows that I have books and he knows that they're about him.
Yeah.
But he hasn't really been able to give us an opinion yet.
Right. I assume though you've read them to him, and
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he comes and sees me when I do book events, and
Right.
so he knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's very limited verbally, so he scripts a lot. So
Scripts?
Scripts. So scripting is where he will take a line from a movie or a video.
Oh, wow.
And he'll use that to tell us, to communicate with
Yeah.
us. Yeah. So like if he wants a snack, he'll use a line from a movie to ask us for a snack.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I don't know, that's,
I mean, it's brilliant because
Yeah.
he has to have a huge bank of scripts to
Right.
be able to communicate with us.
right, in the point of being able to pull something out like that to use it to communicate what he wants is, that's kind of special,
Yeah.
I gotta say, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
So now, are you planning on writing more books?
Yes, I would like to write about 7 books. I have another one written, I just need to illustrate it. And then the illustrator, I did not illustrate my 3rd book, Blaze Needs Berries. My sister-in-law, the actual artist,
Oh, nice.
she illustrated it because she had a special connection to special diets. She's allergic to pretty much everything.
Okay.
So she has an extremely limited diet. So she said, I asked her if she would want to illustrate that one, and she said yes. So I gave that one to her to illustrate. And then I think she's interested in illustrating another one for me about bullying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And then I have another one coming out about being nonverbal and the way we encouraged our son to start speaking. We would sing nursery rhymes to him all day long. And so he started, humming, and then he would start singing a word here and there. And then he would start singing the whole song. And it was just, we were singing all day long for years.
Nice.
But that's how he started, being able to use phrases that he heard in scripts and, actually using them in real life.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. So you got 7, you plan on 7, so you have a theme for every one.
Yes. Yeah.
And you have those themes kind of in your head?
Yeah.
Well, I only say this because even me, I'm going to write 6 books in this series. I have 2.
Mm-hmm.
I got 3 stories, rolling around in my head, and I know the 4th one will come anyways, sooner or later.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know why, but I have this fixed number of 6 in my head. I have to have 6.
That's your lucky number.
Yeah. So there's a lot. I hadn't thought about bullying and stuff like that. It's
Mm-hmm.
bad enough with.
Yeah, we see a lot of bullying, unfortunately.
Yeah.
A lot of people see him not being able to learn the same way they do, and they just assume that he can't do other things. And
Right.
one day on the playground, a kid just said, "Oh, I bet he can't even ride a bicycle." And he heard that. And so he thought it meant he wasn't allowed to ride his bicycle anymore.
Oh.
And so he was crushed and he wouldn't touch his bicycle. It took us about a year to get him back on his
my God.
bicycle. So kids don't realize things that they say. They don't realize, one, that he understands and he can hear you.
Right.
But he can do so many things that the kids don't see us doing, our
Right.
weekend life. They don't know that he can ski and, play baseball and do all these things. They just see him having an intellectual disability and think that it pertains to every aspect of his life.
Right.
So really that's the message that, I really want to get out to everyone is these kids have such unique abilities and they're more than their disability.
Yep.
And, if we just spend a little bit of time understanding them and, really understanding what they are, then we can connect with them.
I'll be honest, I haven't really, the autism that I've seen, personally and stuff is mild.
Mm-hmm.
Or they, I don't understand a lot of the terminology. They're
Where
on
they
the
could
spectrum.
function on their own, basically,
Yeah, when they're
as an adult.
they're on the spectrum, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? That kind of thing.
Our son will not be able to.
Yeah.
He will
And-
be with us his whole life.
I guess my point being that a lot of times, and maybe I'm just being stupid or romantic or whatever, but children with special needs, to me, sometimes they're almost blessed in certain ways because they see a joy in life and, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And happiness. I've known. A friend of mine had a child who had Down syndrome, but that little girl was happy.
They have such self-confidence.
Right.
Our son can sing opera in the grocery store, and he doesn't care if
Right.
everyone is staring at him.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, they have joy.
That's
They
great.
have a lot of joy.
Well, I wish you the best of luck with your books. I think it's a great message. It's important, and I wish you all the success getting it out there
Thank
and educating people, and I hope people will, get more interested in learning more and how to deal with these things, and like you say, to make a more inclusive society.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Well,
much for
thank
being
you.
on the show.
Thank you so much for having
All right.
me.
Well, that's it for Books and Beyond today. Well, see you next time.